Imagine waking up to flames consuming your body and realizing the person you trusted most in the world put you there. This is the horrifying reality that one woman, Hannah Kendrick, faced. And it's not just her story. It's the story of millions suffering in silence, trapped in the devastating cycle of domestic abuse. You won't believe that the person who did this to her could soon walk free. Today, we're diving into the shocking, painful, and ultimately courageous story of Hannah Kendrick, a woman who survived something unthinkable, a survivor who now fights not just for herself, but for the countless others still suffering in silence. Stay with us, because this story of survival, strength, and injustice is something you cannot miss. Hannah Kendrick was born in the quiet town of Osage Beach, Missouri, a place known for its scenic lake views and small-town charm. She spent her early years in Buffalo and Louisiana before moving to Springfield, Missouri at just 13 years old. Like many teenagers, she was navigating a new school, making new friends, and dreaming about her future. Unfortunately, her childhood was anything but easy. Raised in an abusive household, she faced unimaginable hardship from a young age. At just 7 years old, she became the victim of sexual abuse, a trauma that would haunt her for years to come. She was molested by another person before the age of 9. The horrors didn't stop there. At 11 years of age, she had to take the stand in court, testifying against a predator, a man she knew well. Despite her bravery, the case ended in a gut-wrenching defeat when the abuser was found not guilty. This was only the beginning of her battle. "I took the stand against my predator at 11, only for him to be found not guilty. I had to walk past him and his buddies, high-fiving and hugging each other, celebrating his victory and getting away with what he did to me, only to be caught with a 3-year-old a year or so later. He went to prison for that. Ronald Mowry is now a registered sex offender." Yet, despite this early pain, Hannah's spirit remained unbroken. As a young woman, she fell in love with Antonio Draper, though, as we'll see, this relationship would spiral into something far darker. But what seemed like a love story soon turned into something much worse. Hannah Kendrick met Antonio Draper in 1994 when she was just 13 years old. Their lives intertwined in the small city of Springfield, Missouri. They ran in the same circles, their friendship deepening over the years. Then, in August 2000, everything changed. What started as friendship turned romantic. But as their lives became more entangled, the shadows of substance abuse and violence began to creep in. She was 7 months pregnant the first time he turned violent. A shove, a slap. It escalated quickly. Just 5 months after her daughter was born, Antonio, lost in a haze of crack cocaine and methamphetamines, snapped. He stomped on her, shattered picture frames against her face. Hannah did what so many victims do. She ran. But like too many, she found herself drawn back. Hannah fled to Kansas City with her sister, but her mother's apartment sat within the same complex where Antonio lived. Proximity pulls people back, and Antonio knew exactly how to manipulate that. On her 21st birthday, a promise of reconciliation turned into another nightmare. He beat her badly, her nose broken, her face stomped. The kind of scars that linger far beyond the physical. She left, but not for good. A year passed, and Antonio clawed his way back into her life. The cycle of abuse, apology, charm, violence, repeat. Another pregnancy, another chapter. They married in 2005, trying to outrun their past. The beatings became less frequent, but his drinking worsened. Alcohol-fueled rage replaced drug-induced violence. Then, a camping trip in May 2007 changed everything. One final hit, one final black eye. This time, Hannah knew. She had fought too long, suffered too much. 3 children, a stable job, a future she refused to surrender. Domestic abuse is insidious. It starts with control, manipulation, isolation, then violence. The abuser chips away at their victim's reality, making them doubt their worth, their strength, their ability to leave. And when they do, the cycle pulls them back until something snaps. For Hannah, that final blow wasn't just from Antonio's fists. It was the realization that survival meant escape. But here's the question. When the cycle is all you've ever known, can you ever truly break free? Or does it find a way to haunt you, even long after you've left? It was the early morning of October 13th, 2007, when everything changed. Hannah was asleep in her bed. She had no idea that her life was about to be shattered in the most unimaginable way. Antonio Draper, her husband, the father of her children, poured gasoline on her while she slept. In an act of pure malice, he set her on fire. I woke up to the smell of gasoline. Then I heard him say, "Now you're going to die." And just like that, my world went up in flames. In that moment, the woman who had already fought through so much was fighting for her life. Hannah screamed, tried to put the fire out, and managed to escape the bedroom. But her children were still in the house. She had to run to safety, praying the fire wouldn't claim her life. But the attack wasn't just physical. It was emotional and psychological warfare that would haunt her for years. Antonio Draper was arrested, but the nightmare wasn't over for Hannah. In the months that followed, she endured not only physical pain from her severe burns, but the agonizing uncertainty of the legal process. In 2009, Draper was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Yet for Hannah, no amount of time behind bars could take away the torment of what she had been through. Her physical recovery was brutal. 67% of her body was burned, and she endured months of surgeries and rehabilitation. But even with Draper locked away, the psychological scars ran deep. He didn't just harm her body, he shattered her sense of safety and trust. And now, just as Hannah had started rebuilding, a new chapter is beginning, one she never wanted to face. Antonio Draper, the man who tried to take her life, is about to be released. Since turning himself in on October 13th, 2007, the very day of the attack, his time served includes the years before his official sentencing. In prison, he has been considered an honored inmate, with no recorded violations. Because of this, he could be released at any time, though his official release date remains October 13th, 2026. The question remains, what happens next? Recovery for Hannah was a long, painful road. Her injuries were life-changing, leaving her with chronic health problems, PTSD, and the constant reminders of what she endured. It's hard. Every day is a reminder of what he did to me. I've had to learn how to live with these scars. But the hardest part is the fear. The fear that my children will live through something like this again. The fear of him being free. Her pain didn't end when the flames were extinguished. Every step of her recovery was shadowed by the knowledge that Antonio Draper would one day walk free. Despite serving almost 20 years, Draper has never publicly acknowledged the horror he inflicted on his wife or offered any remorse. In a haunting statement, she once said, "It doesn't matter if he serves 1 year, 10, or 20. It won't change the damage he did to me and my kids, unless he does something that gives back to take away the pain." But Hannah is turning her pain into power. She is speaking out, sharing her story, and raising awareness. In 2022, Hannah Kendrick published her autobiography, Heroes and Monsters, a powerful story of survival, strength, and the painful journey of healing after trauma. Through her book, she sheds light on the often overlooked victims of domestic violence and gives a voice to those who have been silenced. If you want to hear Hannah's full story in her own words, Heroes and Monsters is available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and Audible. Be sure to type in her name, Hannah Kendrick, after the title to find it. Raising awareness isn't just about telling stories, it's about action. Domestic abuse doesn't just affect the victim, it impacts entire families, communities, and futures. By speaking out, Hannah hopes to prevent other families from experiencing the horrors she endured. There are millions of survivors like Hannah, each with their own story of pain, fear, and survival. But there is hope. Resources are available for anyone in need, from hotlines to shelters and counseling services. If you or someone you know is in danger, please don't wait. Call the U.S. National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or visit the website in the description below for more resources. Hannah Kendrick's story is one of survival, but also a call to action. It's a reminder that domestic abuse is not just a personal tragedy, it's a societal issue that we all need to address. We can no longer ignore the signs. It's time to speak out, to educate ourselves, to donate to causes that support survivors, to break the silence and help prevent future tragedies. What happened to Hannah shouldn't happen to anyone. Let's make sure it never does again. And remember, you never know who around you might be silently suffering.